The meeting is now streaming live on Facebook. Good morning,
What
Shawn.
up? Hey, good morning, Jamaica. What's happening? Morning,
Ah,
Jamaica from Puerto Rico. Made my finally made my visit this year. I'm out here enjoying Somos. Having a great time. How you doing this morning?
I'm good. We flipped, right? So we're
That's right.
last time I was in Puerto Rico and now you're in Puerto Rico. We're making the trips. It's a great day. I'm really excited for what we're going to talk about today. The elections have come and gone. What is
Yeah,
the report back? What is it that we saw locally in the elections? Has anything changed? What does it mean? What's coming up next? How does this impact our local communities, right? Because
yeah,
what do we talk about? Local impact. So I'm glad that we're going to have this conversation about the elections, how it connects to Somos, right? Where you're at right now.
yeah,
There's plenty
yeah.
for us to talk about. Um, Including the work that we did, right?
That's right. That's right. Getting the people out to vote. We had shout out to all the canvassers that are part of all of us who came out this year, walked the streets, talked to the business owners, talked to the people, and just like made them aware of what was happening as far as voting is concerned, the election that was coming up, and getting folks registered to vote that otherwise wouldn't be, but for us having those type of conversations. So just big shout out to our team for getting out and putting in that work. It was really special to see that happen this year.
It was really awesome. Our campaign associates did the damn thing every single day. They went above and beyond,
Right.
working on college campuses, like you said, talking to businesses, sending text messages to folks
Yeah.
that they knew personally, right?
Yeah.
But this is the work, and I'm really glad that we were able to hire folks from Schenectady
Yeah.
to actually do the work. And they were all
Yeah.
people of color.
That's right. That's right. So shout out to Lamique and Hector, Jen, Victoria, Praise, and Eric. Y'all did y'all thing. Much love.
Yeah, really appreciate them. But let's talk about it, right? So the elections were on Tuesday. New York State had its
Yeah.
elections. Polls were
Yeah.
open from 6 to 9. Um,
Who
and
won?
did we win? Is that what happened? Is that
Who
is that
won?
is
Yeah.
it? We're claiming a win?
We the fact somebody won and somebody lost, right? So
True.
that we can. I mean, you know, you want to shout out a couple of people that actually,
So I definitely will. Let's talk about Schenectady first, right? So,
exactly.
City of Schenectady had the mayoral race as well as some of the city council seats were up. There were Democratic candidates, there were Republican candidates. There was not a Working Families Party candidate. There was someone that stole the Working Families Party line. He did not win. All of the Dems were elected to office. So we maintained the same party structure for the city of Schenectady. The Republicans did not win. I believe that Matt Nelligan got just under 2,000 votes. Gary McCarthy, the incumbent mayor, got just over 4,000 votes. The total number of people that voted for our mayor, 6,617 people.
6,617 people out of how many potential voters?
So there's more than, I know I have the number. It's more than 48,000 people eligible to vote.
Wow.
Yeah.
So to recap for y'all paying attention, Mayor McCarthy won. The Republican challenger did not win. There's a lot of hoopla in the media about that race. We heard a lot of inflammatory things from the Republican candidate about his reasons for running, which were very, I think, concerning for many folks in the community. And so McCarthy won his seat. Our very own Carl Williams, he also took the election, had some Republican challenges there as well. So, it looks like for now, as you stated earlier, the construction of the the body, our local city body remains the same. All Dems representing the city of Schenectady today. So
Yes.
that's not bad news. I think that is good news. We still need to push those that are in office to do the things they need to do, and that's the other important piece about voting and elections is that not just okay, it's great that whoever we voted for may have got in, but what's the follow up? How do we make sure that they continue to not only say the things that we want them to say, but actually do those things, right?
Right, because one of the things that Carl Williams has been very vocal about is housing, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And Marion Porterfield and the mayor were both at the housing event that we hosted
yeah,
to get information to residents. So being able to make sure the folks that are in those seats do the things that residents need and
yeah.
not just, I said this during my campaign and now it's over, is really important because it was a different story in Saratoga.
Absolutely. It was kind of a shocking turn for them. They had a in the previous election, they had a Democratic mayor who came to power there, and they had some wins, I think, on the in the other, I forget this guy, they got a different
Yeah, it's not called a
structure
city
there.
council. Their
Yeah, it's
their
not,
their title is different.
yeah, they have a different title. But they did have a
Commissioners.
Democratic wave commissioners, exactly. Thank you, Jamaica, for that catch. They did have some Democratic folks that won. And now we've seen that kind of turn back the other way. Republicans have now won the mayoralship and they've won the commissioner of public safety, I believe, is the role that Matagino had. And I know that there was a Democratic nominee named Dart who was pushing to win that election and came up short, unfortunately.
A lot of folks have been talking about the discombobulated relationship of Democratic leadership in both Schenectady and Saratoga, right? It was one of those points of similarity is there was not unity in the party, right? Folks were fighting amongst themselves. In
You
Schenectady, it
mean
did
you
not
mean a
impact.
general? You mean a
I mean, in
general
general,
or like yeah, okay. Yeah,
like
yeah.
in general, elected officials were button heads and publicly not kumbaya.
Yeah.
And folks had questioned, is that why Saratoga flipped its seats? But we had the same thing in Schenectady. We had folks that disagreed and publicly said, "Yeah, we're not okay with this, or we disagree with you." But we maintained our seats. I have some theories about, how Saratoga is different than Schenectady. I'd love to hear, what you think when comparing the two that had more Democratic bodies and one flipped and the other didn't.
I mean, one of the things most striking about it to me is that, so actually a couple things I can go down the list, but one of the things more striking than anything is that Saratoga is not as diverse of a community as Schenectady is. It's really not, and it hasn't been for in its history, at least in my understanding of its most recent history, anyway. Right. The other thing is I feel like I don't know the history of politics in Saratoga as much as I do know about it in Schenectady, but I feel like there's a penchant for more conservatism in that area, even though there's definitely a strong, I think, population of people that really care about progress and change as it impacts the entire community for the better. But there is a lot of money in Saratoga that is heavy on maintaining kind of the status quo in some ways, and maybe those are some of the significant differences that come immediately to mind. I mean, up to all of us is disconnected too. Like that's a huge difference, but that may not be either here or there in all actuality, especially when you're just looking at the dynamics of the population and the history as it concerns of wealth. I mean, for God's sake, they got a racetrack.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. They're okay with,
you
the
know.
mistreatment of animals and human beings. So I absolutely agree with you. I think another part of it is that while Saratoga Black Lives Matter has been able to maintain a drumbeat of, hey, we're still here. one of the pieces of electoral politics that I find sometimes falls through the cracks is there's the win, but not the work after, right? And it's something that happens all over the place. Oh, we won, so we don't have to do necessarily anything else. And I'm not speaking about Saratoga Black Lives Matter as much as I'm speaking about the Democratic Party, that they did not look for a way to stay engaged with their community or to expand their base of individuals. Because to win a Democratic seat in a strongly held Republican area is a big deal. So there were people there that,
Yeah.
just like Schenectady, were looking for change. They wanted something different. They believed that here was an opportunity, and then it was lost, right? They couldn't get enough of those people or additional people to come out, while the Republican Party, from the time the election happened, they were on the
Yeah.
ground talking about how this is horrible and this is a bad idea and this is hurting us. They maintained their presence, which is very similar to Schenectady. But again, Saratoga was already red. In Schenectady, and let's be real about the subjectivity about red versus blue. Um, the policies aren't always necessarily different. But I think that in many areas where we've seen significant change, like down in Poughkeepsie, that now has a Black woman for mayor, it was a lot of work that happened over a very long time. And so let's hope the Democratic Party, or any individual, I don't even want to say the Democratic Party. I much rather us think about individuals who believe in creating change on the systemic level. How are they working to build a base to be able to
Yeah.
win and be in office? How many people are not registered in Schenectady? 13,000?
Yeah. I think the points you just made is I think really significant. Because sometimes we get caught up, and people in general get caught up with the idea of, like, do we have these two-party system, and we have some outliers of Working Families Party and others that try to take some inroads into that to have some impact there. But in reality, it's set up in this binary opposition, and the policies oftentimes aren't any different. You know what I mean? It's just wrapped in a different color and a different, kind of articulation of it. We think about, some huge policy, blunders like the 94 crime bill that, drastically kind of enhanced mass incarceration with mandatory minimums and longer, prison sentences, and grew our law enforcement agencies and prisons to an obscene level. That was a bipartisan effort. That was an effort on both the Republican side and the Democrat side. So it's really important that we are not don't get caught up in this party affiliation thing. Even though it's like there's some clearer lines. There's, like, today a little bit, especially with the Trump era of politics, and now everyone on that side of the line kind of following suit. But I think it's important for people to understand and look at the policies that people are pushing, and what those things actually mean, for your day-to-day life and the day-to-day life of your community. It's just, yeah, it's important to consider that, because we get caught up saying, oh, we got a Democrat, and this Democrat is actually more harmful than, say, another candidate that was running with some of the ideas and policies that they push forth.
Which is why
And I'm out here getting bit up by a bunch of damn mosquitoes for some damn reason.
Welcome to Puerto
Listen,
Rico.
I had such a wonderful listen. I know we all serious with the listen. I don't like this, but I had such a wonderful place set up earlier today. I was out by the beach, and I was was all set up ready to rock and roll, and then all of a sudden they started doing construction. And let me tell you, I had been there for like 30 minutes, 35 minutes before it started. Not near mosquito bite. Now I'm back here by the pool. I'm getting all kinds of bit up. It's like just for the people that's watching, I'm suffering for y'all, to make sure that we had this conversation while on live, and y'all get to hear some of this important information about the politics in our community and the election cycle, etc. So y'all should be thanking me
This
for
ain't the
my
first time we suffered for the people.
for my participation
We do thank you. We
in
do.
Puerto Rico, right?
Suffering
Right.
in Puerto Rico. Everyone heard
Yeah.
what I said. You're suffering in Puerto Rico.
Suffering in Puerto Rico. Well,
Suffering.
hey, let's realistically, now we can get into those type of
That
politics too.
well,
There's a
so
lot
we're
of
gonna get
suffering here.
there. We're gonna get there
Yeah.
because as you're talking about the policies that matter, right?
Yeah.
In other states, we actually saw ballot initiatives, right? So the other part of the electoral process, it's not just the individuals being elected, but there were ballot initiatives. In New York State, there were two propositions on the back of the ballot.
Yeah.
Both of them passed.
Hmm.
That were the first one was really important to our local school districts. That helps them. I'm not getting into the details, but yay, as a school board member, super happy. But in Ohio, they used the ballot to get abortion rights.
Mm.
And it's a huge win,
Use the
right?
ballot to get abortion rights written into their constitution. Is that right?
I'm not going to pretend like I remember the details. I just know that I saw all of the messages in a signal channel of yay, Ohio won abortion rights.
Yeah.
And they did it through a ballot initiative, which is another process by which individuals can enact change, right? At a
Yeah.
state level, right? Because
Yeah.
we had our local politics, our local elections. There were places that had statewide elections as well, because not every state is the same who's showing up on the ballot. So that was really important. It was a significant win for there to be change. And again, the work that was done on the ground by a number of organizations for voter education, voter registration, get out the vote, making sure folks showed up at the polls, to ensure that the voices of the people, the majority of the people, is actually heard. I mean, it's also one of the reasons why you're in Somos, right? This is a statewide initiative. Somos isn't a local election gathering.
No, yeah, it's a collab. It's Somos is an actual nonprofit, nonpartisan 501c3 group that actually has a mailing address in Troy. I just found that out earlier today, which was a bit surprising. In Troy, New York. Shout out to Troy. Capital Region love. Yeah, so it's like there's this get together between New York State legislators, both state and assembly, and New York City Council people that come to Puerto Rico, meet with some of their counterparts here, and just kind of talk about what it is to push forward Latino initiatives in both Puerto Rico and New York. I think one of the strengthening and supporting communities is their theme today. They have a very I think expansive focus on youth advocacy, economic development, housing, etc. Some of the needs that I think that go across the board, but more specific to those communities. So yeah, I get to spend time with a lot of individuals that support the work that we do, with all of us, but more, in addition to, I'm here with my other hat with the Bard College and Bard Prison Initiative, meeting and greeting some of the folks that support our work, and then expanding kind of what that community looks like more broadly while I'm out here hanging out. Had a great opportunity to speak with the Lieutenant Governor the other day, and thinking about some of the initiative that he's supporting coming up in the legislative session. So yeah, it's just exciting times, man. And I'm really grateful for being here. Even though it's about the work, it is an opportunity to enjoy a little bit. This is a beautiful place to be, right? For all the reasons, it's a tropical island, right? But let me just say this is a little bit off script, but while I was out earlier today, a place that I had called you and showed you, there was a Puerto Rican brother that I was running by. As an older gentleman, he's maybe 55, 60 years old. And he started speaking, greeting me in Spanish. I told him I don't speak Spanish. He said, asked me where I was from. I told him, New York. And he said, I just want to tell you, thank you for being here. I hope you enjoy the place. But this is a colony. He said, I want you to remember this is a colony, and you're not my enemy, but the American corporations are. And if you look at I couldn't listen. I was taken aback a bit, just because I'm like, like the energies, the universe. Like, how does he know? He doesn't know. He's just like he's greeting someone and he's talking to him and he's just telling me his thoughts about, what's happening there on the island. It was just a very interesting. So it's like these struggles that me and you and so many others are part of are definitely, happening in so many different places. And it's always, I think interesting and refreshing just hear from others who are about, changing some of the dynamics and making things, better for the community, not just for some, but for all of us, right? Like
For
it's really
all of
nice to
us.
be a part of that. It really is.
And it's absolutely, I'm not surprised that that energy found you.
Mhm.
That's just something that I've seen happen time and time again.
Yeah.
And the decisions that are made in our name, right? Because elected representatives at the state level, at the federal level, at the local level, they make decisions in our name. The United States still has a colony. There is still occupied land in Africa, right?
Mhm.
That is not controlled by its local people.
Yeah.
Across the world, we are seeing in real time what colonization and occupation looks like, and people
Yeah.
making decisions about dollars that come from us. Let's be real. People pay taxes, and then that money goes to the government, and they decide what is it that we need to spend this money on as a collective whole that the people would not be able to do individually.
Yeah.
And that the militarization, the bombs, how much violence is enacted in our name is something that is directly tied to our elections. I'm going to bring it back because when folks say, oh, my vote doesn't matter, oh, they're just going to do what they want to do anyways, there are 13,000 people in Schenectady that are not registered to vote. If 13,000 people, even 1,000 people, 2,000 people look at the city elections for the mayor in Schenectady, the difference in the vote was just a little bit more than 2,000 individuals, right? There's 13,000 people not registered to vote. Only
Yeah.
6,600 came out. That's less than the population of two neighborhoods.
Yeah.
Hamilton Hill and Vale have more residents total than the number of people that came out to vote in the mayoral election in the city of Schenectady. And we see that
Yeah.
trend in a lot of places, especially those of marginalized communities. And when I say marginalized, I'm specifically speaking about Black folks and other people of color. That passive voter suppression exists in New York as readily as active voter suppression in other states. Just because we don't have ID laws doesn't mean that they're not happy about us not being in the polls, right? Um,
Yeah.
and that's why we keep doing this work. It's why you're in Puerto Rico. It's why we do the voter registration and education. How can we continue to build up our communities and give them voice? Be aware of what's happening in places. I saw that in Somos, they're having a conversation about public safety. AQE of New York had put a post out about it, and it was about investing in communities.
Yeah.
Where did I hear that before, Shawn?
Yeah, I mean, I know that's what it's about. It's trying to get away from this, the idea that, we can invest in all these other things and not in the actual people that exist in those communities that live day to day. It's interesting that it's like historically voting, and I took some poli sci classes, and looking at the history of voting in the entire country. It's always been, relatively low, right? It's always been, we sit in a long line of like, of people that have been like pushing the idea that voting is important, pushing the idea that you got to take ownership of your community, you got to have a say, et cetera. And you come to a, I'm coming more and more to a place and like thinking about what it means to not just talk about voting. And we talked about this a bit earlier, but to talk about, taking ownership of the community in a way that you understand that voting is a part of what makes your community better, not just the voting aspect of it, but understanding who's running for office, what they're running on, and then holding them accountable to that while they're doing it. While they're if they happen to win election, right? That's a part of, I think, your responsibility in the community as a community member. That's a part of civic engagement, which is about your community good, right? You knowing your neighbors. We've lost a lot of that in this, with this individualistic mindset where it's only about me on the bottom of things. It's only about me as I climb up. But when we at the top, it's all about us making sure we stay on top and staying connected. It's a little bit, it's a little bit disingenuous, right? Intellectually dishonest when you think about democracy today and like, is it representative of the people? Is it representative of all people? Is it do we really have a say so? And like we have been trying for, and we'll continue to do this work, just make sure that folks kind of know that their voice does matter, and collectively we can make those changes happen. But you got to be engaged, you got to be involved, and I think you got to make that connection between this act, these things that we're doing is about the betterment of this community, my neighbors, etc. That I'm a part of a whole, right? That's how it kind of works. So
We don't
at least
have a
those are my
democracy.
ideas.
We don't have a democracy. This country,
We
the United States, has never had a democracy. There has constantly been a fight for rights, because I wrote down the dates. It wasn't until 1920 that women had the legal right to vote. 1924 granted Native American citizenship rights, including the right to vote, a whole nother group of individuals that are facing all types of atrocities still today. And the Voting Rights Act of 1965 to fight back against the attack on Black residents in the South specifically, right? Because you gave women the right to vote, but it wasn't Black women that were given the right to vote back in 1920. Specifically, at the polls, we saw our folks trying to vote and being arrested, beaten, and murdered. And
Yeah.
if our vote wasn't so important, they wouldn't fight so hard to stop us, right? We don't yet have a democracy. We're fighting to get to the point where the United States actually has a democracy.
And that's the work, right? We're fighting for that. And I just you brought us some stuff. You're talking about history, so you didn't get me to start going off about history. We actually have a republic, which is a limited democracy. It's not a anyway. We won't do all that today because we're running out of time. We'll do it on the next time we talk on the history version of of our lives. But no, I hear you, Jamaica. Like it's been limited in who has access, for the entire time that our country has been in existence, and it's the work is to bring it to a more representative place, and what that looks like is also a part of the work. Being creative and reimagining like how we all live together, how we all impact each other in our communities, and impact on the global stage. Right now, we didn't talk about it, but there's still devastation happening in places like the Congo, as you mentioned, and obviously in Gaza and in the West Bank, with the atrocities that are happening there, with nearly 5,000 or more than 5,000 children deceased at this moment
Murdered.
because of the supply of weapons and money, ammunitions from the United States and other Western countries. And we have no, what it appears to be, there's no real kind of end in sight with our politicos trying to fully support that. It's just a sad thing. But we're over time. We can do
We
a whole nother
are.
skit on that another time.
And
History and global politics coming up in our next
I don't know
Facebook
if it's in
Live.
2 weeks. Well, I don't know what we're talking about in 2 weeks. Don't be making promises. I will definitely say that we are in a horrible position in the United States, that we often are in electorally, where we make decisions between the lesser of two evils. It's not necessarily that we have a candidate who we're like, I support him. I believe that he is looking for an opportunity for all of us to thrive and no one to be struggling to survive. But we're making decisions about the lesser of two evils, and that we very well may be facing that again in 2024, when individuals are spending billions of dollars to bomb children in other countries, to bomb human beings, civilians in other countries.
Yeah.
And while we didn't talk about it today, and whether or not we do talk about it in 2 weeks, we do call for a ceasefire. And we do
Yeah.
want our elected officials at every level to stand on the side of justice, to stand on the right side of history, and to denounce the atrocity that's happening to the Palestinian people right now. So, with that, may you,
You want to
Shawn,
end it? You
not
want to
get
end it
bit up
now?
by any more, don't get bit up by any more
I
mosquitoes.
think I think they full. I think they full. They
Bring,
done went. They sitting back and relaxing right now. Like they had. I'm like a Thanksgiving turkey. They didn't
oh my, well,
and
we were
had their
talking
fun.
about colonizers. Bring back a wealth of knowledge. And I look forward to seeing you back on this side of the state's lines.
No, I look forward to getting back home, man. This is another one of our Friday our Focus Fridays. Had a great time. Enjoy what this video is represented. Got any questions? Please email us. Please tag this post. We look forward to having this conversation again. Much love to everyone. Peace out.
Have a great day, everyone.